So joining us now is Chuck Rosenberg, MSNBC contributor and a former senior FBI official and U.S. attorney, and New York Times chief White House correspondent Peter Baker and former RNC chairman Michael Steele. Chuck, I don't know if you've ever had that kind of intensive audit. They say it's very rare, and for these two men, both of whom had the same job and both were on Trump's enemy list, to both be audited is a 1 in 82 million probability, according to the New York Times. What say you?
So, well, I haven't had the pleasure of an IRS audit, perhaps something to look forward to, Andrea. The statistics tell you that this is highly, highly unusual. The statistics don't tell you that it's improper, right? I mean, Michael Steele could win the lottery. It's extremely unlikely that he'll do that. He could also win the lottery twice. That's an infinitesimally small chance. But winning it twice has happened, and it's statistically possible. So the only real answer I think I have right now is highly unusual statistically and mathematically, and we should turn it over to the Treasury Inspector General and let that person figure it out. We don't know. Right now it would be conjecture, but the math looks daunting.
Peter Baker, this New York Times report by your colleague, Michael Schmidt, is certainly alarming, and it's certainly resonant of things that many people experienced during the Nixon years, when there was definitely an enemies list and people were audited on orders of the White House.
Yeah, I think, look, Chuck is right that there's no evidence in the story that Mike Schmidt was able to publish that suggests definitively that this was done as an act of retaliation, other than the circumstantial evidence of the numbers, which are very, very daunting. However, I think that you have to take it into context President Trump's very, very clear messages throughout his presidency that he wanted to use the apparatus of government to punish his enemies. Repeatedly, he called on the Justice Department to prosecute people he didn't like, including James Comey and Andrew McCabe. Repeatedly, he sought to use the power of his presidency to, to take action against those he didn't like politically. He tried, in fact, I think, to strip security clearances from Jim Comey and Jim Clapper, another former intelligence director, I think John Brennan, the former CIA director, not because they had done anything wrong, but because they criticized him and he didn't like them as a result of that. And therefore, he wanted to use his power to take away their security clearance. So in other words, he showed again and again a willingness to do things other presidents didn't do or wouldn't have done, or at least would have been embarrassed to have been caught doing.
He certainly never considered that there was a firewall between him and the Justice Department, which traditionally was the case in another parallel instance. Michael Steele, can something like this hurt the credibility of the IRS with Americans? Not exactly a beloved agency.
Yeah, Andrea, I was going to say, I don't think there's a whole lot of love between the American people and the IRS. So I think most Americans would chalk this up like, see, I told you. I think Chuck has got it right in terms of how the statistics play out here. I'd like that idea of hitting the lottery twice. We're working on that. But the reality remains that this reeks more of politics than anything else, particularly considering that the IRS's own public pronouncements, particularly during and after COVID, was how overwhelmed they were, how far behind they were on audits. Audits were not a priority for the IRS because they had a shortfall of personnel to do the regular processing of taxes and tax returns. So it does smell a little bit funny to me, but I'm not going to keep all the political hats on this. I'll give a nod to the idea of chance and probability and the reality that something was triggered the audit, but it's just kind of weird that both men triggered it approximately the same time, coming out of an administration in which they were not liked by the president. And so I think that it smells a little bit funny from where I'm sitting.